Hey guys, how's it going? So today we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to go after the mainstream media today. What we're going to do is we're going to go after the people who believe the mainstream media fake narratives. Today, we're going to go after a person called Matt Dillahunty. And why am I going after him once again? Well, because Matt Dillahunty has a platform. He's not really the mainstream media, but a lot of people tend to believe his stupidity. They think of Matt Dillahunty as a critical thinker when, in all honesty, what some of these people do is not critical thinking, but sheep thinking. They don't think for themselves, even though they say they do. They think what other people tell them to think, never analyzing anything. In this case, specifically, the Kyle Rittenhouse case. So Matt Dillahunty, in this video, had a few claims to make, and they're all disprovably false. I'm going to show it to you. I'm not just going to tell you it's false. I'm going to give you the correct information that's out there for anyone to see. I'm not special. I don't claim to be a reporter. No, this is just what everybody has access to. All this information that we have access to. And I still can't believe that people are pushing a fake narrative. And so, like I said, I attack these type of people because they have a platform. They have an audience. And even though they are wrong in their arguments, even though they're wrong on what they're saying, since people believe them so much because they're like, well, somebody so smart is not gonna lie to me, are they? Well, yes, that's precisely what they do. They lie to you. They convince you of things that really aren't there. I'm gonna prove to you guys without a shadow of a doubt that even if you're wrong, even if you have the wrong information, if you give it to someone else, if you convince someone else that that wrong information is the right information, despite the fact that we have so much evidence out there, but that other person is going to believe you despite that information because he believes that a critical thinker like Matt isn't going to lie to him. But that's exactly what they do. They lie to people, they deceive people to have them think in a different way that isn't the correct way. So let me show you the video in question. And we're going to go point by point where Matt Dillahunty is wrong. And I'm going to and like I said, I will show you how we convinced a caller to be wrong with him, even though the caller was already right. Watch.
Steve in Indiana, who disagrees with what I said about Kyle Rittenhouse. All of it or part of it, or what's going on, Steve?
Yeah. Hey, love all you do. Mainly it's, when you compared it to the January 6th thing, for one thing, I wouldn't call it a false equivalency or categorical error, but the January 6th thing was just insane. But when I think about this Kyle Rittenhouse situation, first of all, I'm looking at a couple things. What,
Steve?
Go ahead.
I did not compare.
Yeah.
I did not compare the Kyle Rittenhouse thing to the insurrection. What I said, the insurrection came up when I was talking about our standards of what a reasonable person is likely to do, and that was in response
Correct.
to the censure
Yeah.
of, and so I said Kyle Rittenhouse didn't act reasonably. The people on January 6th didn't act reasonably. I'm not saying that they didn't act reasonably in the same way for the same reasons.
Okay, and I agree with you there. What I'm saying is I believe he did act reasonably under the circumstances. So,
wait,
first of all,
you think Kyle Rittenhouse? I want to be clear, Steve. I'll let you answer. You think Kyle Rittenhouse was acting reasonable when he crossed state lines with a gun he wasn't supposed to have?
Driving across state borders. He's driving across state lines.
Across the state line, across state lines.
Across state lines, across state lines.
If you look at the Rittenhouse case, he crossed state lines. Drives up to events.
Across state lines.
Came across state lines.
Kyle Rittenhouse, who traveled across state lines.
From out of state, out of his own state.
Came across state borders. Whenever you have a situation where a 17-year-old is crossing state lines.
He crosses a state line, drives 30 minutes into Kenosha.
He crossed state lines.
Cross state lines.
Across state lines. He crossed state lines.
Kyle Rittenhouse, who crossed state lines.
Across state lines.
Cross state lines.
He went across state lines.
Cross state lines.
Cross state lines. And
Cross state lines.
A 17-year-old kid
from out of state. He makes
Out of state.
all cross state lines. Cross state lines. Cross state lines.
Across state lines.
Cross state lines. Went over state lines. Drove across state lines. He drove across state. Had his mother drive him across state lines.
Pulled across state lines.
Carl Rittenhouse traveled from his home in Illinois across the state line to Wisconsin.
Drove to a different state. Drives up to the state.
Again, drove across state lines.
The state that he does not live in. He traveled there from out of state. He crossed state lines, meaning he traveled across state lines. The 17-year-old who crossed state lines. Now again, he drove from Illinois to Wisconsin. The 17-year-old from out of state who shows up to Kenosha, Wisconsin. He drove from Illinois to Kenosha, Wisconsin. Kyle Rittenhouse, who again traveled across state lines in a state that he doesn't even live in. He crossed state lines. He drove across state lines.
We know that Kyle Rittenhouse traveled across state lines to go to Kenosha, and he murdered 2 protesters.
Willing to drive across state lines to commit murder.
And did anyone help him cross state lines?
His mama drove him across state lines.
Rittenhouse's mother drove her son across state lines.
Here you have a 17-year-old boy who is driven by his mother across state lines with an automatic weapon.
Our mama would never drive either one of us across state lines to go to a freaking riot.
Rittenhouse in Kenosha, allowing his mom to take him across state lines.
Cross state lines.
He crossed state lines with an AR-15, threw himself in the middle of all this, and started shooting people.
And this argument is exactly how I know that Matt Dillahunty watches with a passion and believes all these fake news media outlets like CNN and MSNBC, all these fake news channels. Kyle Rittenhouse never crossed state lines with that rifle. It was always in Kenosha, Wisconsin. That's where his dad lived. That's where he worked. That's where the gun was at.
Before August 25th of 2020, had that gun ever left the state of Wisconsin?
No.
And I do want to clear up one little misconception out there, Dave, that you just mentioned. And I hear this from a lot of people. There's a belief out there that he crossed state lines with the gun, and that actually is not true. This is a weapon that never left the state of Wisconsin. It was bought in a small town in Wisconsin. It was kept at his friend's residence in Kenosha. And when he came up that day, he did get it from his friend's residence.
To go act as if he were in a place of law enforcement?
Kyle Rittenhouse wasn't acting like a police officer, nor did he ever claim that he was there in the place of police or law enforcement. He was open carrying a gun. That's fucking legal. He was also hired as security. That's fucking legal too. Private security at that.
You think Kyle Rittenhouse was acting reasonable when he crossed state lines with a gun he wasn't supposed to have to go act as if he were in a place of law enforcement?
Yeah, okay, so yes, but when we talk about the details on that, for one thing. Okay.
Now look at this scene where he does this dramatic effect and then goes off into the distance in disbelief. Wow, I can't believe that you honestly think that a person has a right to defend himself. I don't know how you can think that way.
Okay, bear with me. First of all, the reason the whole rifle thing that he wasn't supposedly not supposed to have was thrown out is because it's not that at 17 he couldn't buy it at 17, but he definitely could possess it and carry it at 17. So that was thrown out. Now, crossing state lines, he had a personal reason to go to the location he did. Okay? I can't remember the exact detail, but I believe he worked for that location or was familiar with that place. Also, he understood that given the circumstances and the air at the time in the country, and knowing the circumstances of what had led to the riots that came out, okay, in that area, he knew that unreasonable acts would actually unfold, and he felt that he would go there and just stand and protect the property. Now, what I'm not saying that that's you and I would consider that reasonable, but at 17 years old, I'm
you did
no,
sir. No, sir. You said he was reasonable. You said he was reasonable.
I think he is reasonable. I think he is.
I don't.
And I'm gonna back that up.
I don't think it's reasonable. I don't think it's reasonable for any individual to think that they get to go arm themselves and protect something.
And his words put me at awe. It's unreasonable for someone to go protect something, arm themselves and go protect something. Wouldn't you think it's a lot more unreasonable for the people who are burning and rioting and looting and killing and raping? Don't you think it's more unreasonable for them to do this shit? Especially why they were doing it? What weren't the Kenosha riots because of Jacob Blake? What, Jacob Blake, wasn't he that black dude that was gonna stab the police? He had a knife when they shot him, and this is why the protests happened? It astonishes me like you guys have no idea how someone can come to think that if shit is getting burned down, nobody but the police has a right to do something about it. Nobody but the police. And when the police do it, and they happen to kill someone too, they just burn down more shit. That's what's illogical about it. All this Black Lives Matter, all these riots, all this looting that's going on countrywide, they just want an excuse to do this shit. That's what's unreasonable. People protecting themselves, people protecting property is the only reasonable thing that happened that night.
They're not law enforcement. He doesn't own that property. The owners weren't there to defend it. It's absolute bullshit. And then months later, he's prancing around smiling with Proud Boys and free as fuck t-shirts.
This is the real reason why Matt Dillahunty is saying that Kyle Rittenhouse isn't reasonable. Because after the fact that he defended his life from people that tried to hurt him, maybe even kill him, he was prancing around with Proud Boys. So fucking what? What the fuck does what Kyle did after the fact of defending his life have to do with anything? Nothing. What if he was hanging around with Black Lives Matter people? Would that have changed your opinion of what happened that night? That's stupid. It shouldn't. But I mean, leftists never actually think this shit through. They just let the media explain everything for them. And then they explain it to other people that kind of had it right. This caller that Matt has, as you can see, kind of has a notion on what the truth is, but Matt's going to do everything to flip him around with false information, as you see here.
Let's not pretend that this was a 17-year-old acting reasonable.
Okay. What I'm saying is, putting aside the motivation, what I'm saying is, given
you don't get to do that.
The circumstances in the moment. No, hold on, I can, because here's the thing. If he goes
sir, you
there
can't.
and he's deciding
you don't get to set aside. You don't get to set aside the motivations.
I don't know exactly what his motivations were. He did tell me that he was there to protect the peace and to provide medical attention.
Hold on, wait, what? Since when does Kyle Rittenhouse's motivations count in any sense? They can be set aside. Yes, they can. Watch. If Kyle Rittenhouse was there to kill a whole bunch of niggas, his motivations fucking failed because he only killed white people. Kyle's motivation was only to protect the property that he was paid to protect. Kyle Rittenhouse didn't shoot at people because they were burning shit. No, Kyle Rittenhouse didn't shoot at people until they attacked him. Kyle Rittenhouse did not shoot anybody. He didn't shoot anyone when shit was getting burned down. First of all, the reason this all happened is because there was a dumpster fire, and Kyle Rittenhouse was walking around with a fire extinguisher, and he went and turned off the fire that the fucking rioters were gonna throw at a gas station. And then Mr. Rosenbaum, the first nigga that got shot, you know, the pedophile, he was the one that started attacking Kyle. Until that happened, until someone started attacking Kyle, that's when that's when people got shot. He was not an active shooter. He wasn't just going and killing anybody. He was shooting at people specifically that tried to hurt him.
They're relevant.
They are not relevant in the legal sense of self-defense, is what I'm getting at. He was.
I don't give a no.
Steve,
you're missing the point. Steve, you're missing the point. I don't give a fuck about self-defense.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck about the facts. He doesn't give a fuck that it was self-defense. He just gives a fuck that he killed people that were on the Black Lives Matter side. That's all he gives a fuck about. I mean, what else is there?
I don't give a fuck about this.
But you brought up the point that there were two unarmed people that attacked him. So obviously you do care.
Yes. So he
Because
should
you
not have
mentioned
been
they were
there.
unarmed.
He should not have been there. He should not have been there with a gun.
He should not have been there. Here's one of the things that I don't get, that everybody's like, well, Kyle Rittenhouse never should have been there. Why is everybody condemning Kyle Rittenhouse for being there, for protecting property, but nobody ever condemns the people that were looting, that were rioting, that were raping? Why is that the fucking case? Why is it the case that these people don't have the balls to call out all these fuckers that were rioting, burning down properties? Do you guys remember David Dorn? This is one of the things I remember a lot. This police officer that got killed. I don't remember from which riot, since there were so many, but they were robbing a mall. I'm not going to show the video because, I mean, they age restrict me or cancel my videos for everything, so I'm just not gonna. And so this police officer, he was about to be retired. He was an older black man, and he got shot in the head by some niggas stealing some TVs or something. He was protecting a property. And I don't remember this innocent black man ever getting a protest, ever getting a riot in his name. It's not that you care about black people so much. You just care about the criminals who are shot and killed by police officers.
And even if you don't get to create a situation and then claim self-defense.
Yeah, because Kyle Rittenhouse created that situation, huh, you dumb son of a bitch? Kyle Rittenhouse was the one that was burning down the cities. Kyle Rittenhouse was the one that was looting everything. Kyle Rittenhouse was the one stealing cars. I mean, really? Who created the situation? If anything, Black Lives Matter created the situation.
Now, I said, if you listened, that as a matter of law, I would not be surprised, because this is a complicated case, that he was acquitted. But I don't think that's justice. I think that's the law.
Listen to these words. This is how they tongue twist arguments and have people thinking in a different way. Because look at what he said. He's like, I'm saying that as a matter of law, he's going to be acquitted because it's a self-defense argument. That's a little bit complicated, but that complication, do you know where it sits? It sits on the facts that apparently he knew Kyle Rittenhouse only shot at people who attacked him. So as a self-defense argument, it might just fucking work because this fucking kid didn't kill anyone innocent. That's what he's saying. But then when he says that wouldn't be justice, I'm like, what the fuck? Wait, I thought the law was supposed to be justice, you stupid son of a bitch. No, it's just that he feels it was wrong that he lost two comrades and one of them got shot in the arm.
But see, now you're confusing two things. Because what I said was unreasonable for a 17-year-old to fucking pack up a gun and go over and defend a property that he doesn't fucking own, as if he's some law enforcement officer, while he's lying to people about whether he's a paramedic.
I don't think he ever claimed to be a doctor. Wasn't he offering EMT services, as in medical services or emergency services? Because I think he's a lifeguard. So if anyone would know how to patch up a cut or do like chest compressions, don't you think it would be a lifeguard?
You from the area?
I am from the area.
What brought you out here tonight? You just wanted to provide medical attention?
Provide medical attention to people that need it. If somebody's injured, like you get hurt, I'm grabbing you.
None of that was reasonable. There was no reason. There's not a fucking 17-year-old on the goddamn planet who's not active duty military who has a reason to arm themselves and go stepping in to where riots are occurring. You're not law enforcement. Nothing's reasonable about that. If at the point someone was threatening him, and in that scenario he fired in self-defense, okay, that's something else. That's not anything at all that I was talking about, and I already acknowledged that he may get off for that.
And that's exactly what happened, you stupid son of a bitch.
But anybody who's trying to say that Kyle Rittenhouse had a reasonable thought that led to him standing in front of that place with a gun, I'm just not going to fucking buy that at all. That, especially running around with Proud Boys afterwards, this is somebody who wanted to be a fucking hero.
Hold on, wait, what's so wrong with wanting to be a hero? What's wrong with that? What's wrong? Being a hero is just a fucking pro to anything, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to be a hero? Like, let's say someone breaks into your house and then they try to rape my wife. I would rather me be a hero and kill the dude than my wife be a victim and be raped. I don't know who likes being victims, but apparently Matt Dillahunty, more than heroes, he likes criminals. And we know because of how much he protects and he loves so much Black Lives Matter and this Antifa movement. Fucking leftists.
Okay, see, I didn't know anything about the whole Aftermath Proud Boys.
And here's how he won the other person around. Oh, I didn't know about what he did afterwards. But that's irrelevant to what happened in that. I mean, really. Here's my way of demonstrating to you guys how bad information, wrong information, conveyed in the way that Matt Dillahunty does, will convince someone to be wrong along with you. Even though, if the facts are still out there.
Well, I was looking at the situation as the video showed the self-defense, and that's all I'm looking at there. But I agree with you. I'll take that back then. And I you know, one of my favorite things about you, Matt, is, and I just want to say this, Matt. One thing that you've really helped me out with over the years and working with, you know, as an atheist, I do a lot of work locally, but is being able to admit when one is wrong. And so I retract my statement.
It's crazy when you think about shit this way, because even though you're like, well, the law might say that, yeah, he's cleared because it was self-defense, but then he's like, but it wasn't justice. And I'm like, what the fuck is justice then? I mean, would you like to see Kyle Rittenhouse behind bars for defending his life?
And I would just simply say that I'm looking at the situation just from a you know, self-defense point of view, and I believe that in a legal sense and self-defense, I believe he was totally within his right, and that's basically where I stand on that. But yes, you're right about, because I didn't know about all that backup stuff. So
that is an understandable position, which is why when I talked about this earlier, I said that he was likely to get off, and I think that I said, and I'd have to look back at my notes or play it back, that I'm not convinced that that wouldn't be the correct legal decision. I just don't think it's just. Because
and I mean, I guess a lot of it too goes back to the idea that when you have people, I'm sorry.
I'm saying, like, if there's a fight going on at the gas station up the street, and I grab a gun and I go up to the gas station up the street where there's a fight going on, and I stand there, and somebody comes up and threatens me and tries to take the gun out of my hand, and I shoot them, I'm not convinced I get to claim self-defense, because I'm the one that went there when I had no fucking business there and escalated the situation.
I'm kind of with you on that case that you cited specifically, but it has no relevance to what happened with the Kyle Rittenhouse case at all. So it's not comparable. So shut the fuck up. Bad argument, bitch.
Yeah, well, okay, but here's the thing, though, too. Not only do my work requires me to carry a gun, but I carry a gun no matter where I am at all times. So I wouldn't go to some place, but I would already be armed no matter where I am at all times. Under 24/7, I'm armed no matter where I go. But that's just how
Are you armed with an AR-15? Are you armed with an AR-15 that is pointed at somebody's chest? Because I bet the answer to that's no.
You didn't see him threaten anybody, right?
No, I did not.
You didn't see him point his gun at anyone?
No, I did not.
Didn't see him raising his voice in an agitated manner or anything like that?
No, I didn't.
So that's also fucking irrelevant. Kyle Rittenhouse never pointed it at anybody until he was gonna shoot.
Okay, so when you were standing 3 to 5 feet from him with your arms up in the air, he never fired, right?
Correct.
It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him, with your gun, now your hands down, pointed at him, that he fired, right?
Correct.
Never take an argument from a leftist. Why? Because most likely it's going to be wrong. And why, might you ask? Because they don't base their arguments on reality. They base them on their feelings. More than anything, leftists tend to, it's how I feel. Don't believe me? I mean, how have they gotten away with all this transgender shit? It's because of feelings. Facts don't matter. Biology isn't real. It's how I feel. It's gender.